Hey guys, CommentLurker here. More Caves of Qud also here. So we could just replay our character, but let's actually see some of this stuff for how to build a character. Maybe correct some mistakes that I've made a little bit in some other videos. So we're basically going to go for this all the way up to 18 for everything thing. Notice how when we're at 18, the points go down 2 for every thing we go up, but when it's less than that, things only cost us 1. So unless you really need to specialize in something, I'd say don't go past don't go past 18. So I also think willpower tends to be the worst of these stats. It makes you get your mutant abilities back faster, which makes them a little bit important, but actually I'm considering taking something out of intelligence and putting in willpower, so I don't use that either. Oh well, so let's look at this stuff. Morphotypes. These are, do you only want to use stuff in this physical mutations area, or only stuff in these mental mutations area? Those are both not worth taking in my opinion. Maybe if they gave you points, but no, they cost points. They might be technically helpful in manifesting abilities if you don't have a form of luck abuse, which we do. So here's also Unstable Genome. Unstable Genome lets you manifest a random ability every, or not every, randomly when you get a level. You might be able to manifest your Unstable Genome, then the Unstable Genome goes away. You can actually buy more than one, and then you get 4 manifestations or whatever number it is, eventually if you keep leveling. Or you'll die before you manifest it. That's probably only useful for getting things that cost 4 or 5 mutation points. Here are our available points, 12. There's a way to get a few more. But I'd say don't go for this unless you really want these 4 and 5s and either have a lot of patience with the precognition or feel very lucky. So let's start with some of the important physical mutations. I'm not going to go over all these because that's boring. Let's look over the first digging ability, Burrowing Claws. Probably the most efficient digging ability. It lets you literally dig, and it allows you to make faster passages, as well as unlock areas that normally can't be accessed, which is good because in at least some dungeons there are a lot of locked rooms that you can burrow into. Corrosive Gas Generation is another technically digging ability. It lets you create corrosive gas around your guy, and corrosive gas is able to destroy walls. Sadly, it can also destroy loot behind walls, making it not so safe. But if you're careful, you should be able to get all the loot, or at least most of the loot, when using corrosive gas generation. Both Burrowing Claws and Corrosive Gas Generation, as well as all the other digging abilities, can be used later on in Gate to get lots and lots of stuff early on. Sadly, I wasn't able to show you with Sadika, but let's see if I can get there this time. Electric Generation, we saw that already. That's a good attack, sort of. Here are the 2 hand abilities, the Flaming Hand and the Freezing Hand. I guess technically Burrowing Claws is also a hand ability. These are the elemental hand abilities. They are very powerful, but I would say don't go for them simply because they mean that you can't wear gloves if you get them. So you lose out on the opportunity to get ulnar stimulators or any other really nice kind of gloves. Same with Burrowing Claws, which is why in some ways it might be better to get Corrosive Gas Generation or one of the other digging abilities over Burrowing Claws. Gloves aren't so amazing in this game, but I would still prefer to get them, especially with the 5 points that it costs to get these abilities. They can be put into other abilities that are not as powerful, but powerful enough to get you through, that also don't mess with your gloves. So Multiple Arms lets you do the obvious. Multiple Legs, obvious what it does. These let you wear more equipment. They also have a bit of a bonus. Looks like only the legs has a clear bonus. Makes it a little faster and lets you carry a little more. Pretty nice, but not really a necessity. Night vision, you see in the dark. That's not so necessarily important when you have Where's light manipulation? Is that a mental mutation? I guess it is. Well, whatever. We'll look at that later. So, phasing. This lets you go through walls. Technically not a digging ability, but it does the job, so I consider it a digging ability. Probably one of the better digging abilities. Notice how it's expensive. It's because it's really good. But it does have the added danger of killing you automatically if you're not careful. If you are in a wall while you're phasing, and you phase back in and you're still in the wall, then you're going to die. So, be careful with phasing, I suppose is the least I can say. Photosynthetic skin. It's a nice ability. It lets you heal faster when you're out in the sun, and it also helps with traveling on the map since it keeps your hunger under control as you travel on the map, so long as the sun is feeding your photosynthetic skin. But I'd say it's not worth it because it's not so vital. If it was only 1 point, I might go for it. But 3 points, even 2 points, is a little much for something that's not really so necessary for survival. More of a luxury. Because you can always harvest. Quill seems to be a very powerful attack, but it also messes with another one of your inventory slots, your armor slot. So I'd say don't go for it unless you really don't care about getting good armor. This is a very important slot, unlike the glove slot, which is probably part of the reason why Quills is so powerful. It's very similar to electric generation in that over time it builds up charges, or in this case Quills, and you could let them all out at once. Regeneration does what it sounds like. It makes you heal faster, and it lets you regain broken limbs that you can lose in places that we haven't gotten to yet. So, not even all that important. I've only seen one enemy that can do that. Here are bunches of other abilities. Quickly go over wings. They let you fly. They make traveling on a map faster, so you essentially starve to death at half the rate. And fewer turns pass by when you're on the map. It also makes you a lot less likely to get lost for whatever reason. I guess it makes a little bit of sense. If you're in a forest and you have all the vegetation in your face, then it's pretty hard to know where you're going. If you're over the place, it might be a little bit easier. Analytical Genius is terrible. Some other abilities. Clairvoyance can be used with another ability to make a makeshift digging ability, but it takes so many points because it's combining 2 separate abilities. I think it's 8 points. 8 points I think it is to get this little makeshift thing. But I suppose if you need one of the 2 abilities, we'll go over it later, then it might be worth getting. Cryokinesis. First of the 2 kineses, simply because of alphabetical order. Other one is pyrokinesis. Where are you, Pyro? There you are, pyrokinesis. Both of these are area effect things where you cause a little fire or ice thingamajig to affect everybody in the area, making them take damage for 3 turns. The difference between cryokinesis and pyrokinesis is pyrokinesis tends to set your opponents on fire, and then after a while they lose HP because they're on fire. Fire tends to not be good for your health. Cryokinesis, on the other hand, makes opponents freeze, which is nice if you are also a warrior or something. You have some very good attacks with your weapon, because that's essentially free turns to hurt your opponent. Otherwise, pyrokinesis seems to be the more powerful one. The other issue with pyrokinesis is, which is the same as for flaming hands and any other fire ability, is that it tends to destroy loot that enemies drop. So if you're fighting some guy and he has some really nice armor, and you shoot your pyrokinesis or flaming hands at him, and he dies, his armor might get destroyed, and then you don't get to use it. Yeah, I didn't really go over flaming and freezing hands. The difference between them is essentially the same thing as cryokinesis and pyrokinesis, the difference between those two. The flaming hands are a straight line attack. you shoot directly forward, and cryokinesis and pyrokinesis and dukinesis have a square of effect. We've seen Domination. That's a very good ability. I've yet to even show you the full potential of that ability. I'm going to show you a very interesting thing. This is going to be a special run, because I'm going to try out something with Domination. It's a little difficult. I've done it once. Disintegration. I feel really bad because I said earlier that it was a terrible ability when it came with 2 other terrible abilities. Disintegration is not such a bad ability. It is another digging ability simply because it can destroy walls. Like corrosive gas, it can also destroy loot, and it's a little bit weirder to control because it's all at once, and the disintegration effect destroys stuff around you all at once in a random pattern. So it's a little difficult to control and make sure that you don't destroy precious loot. But if you're patient and you use it from a distance, you can slowly chip away at a wall and not lose loot. Although I guess I'm usually not that patient. I just use it and lose whatever I lose. It's also really useful for getting rid of a special hated enemy. One of the worst enemies in the game, Twinning Lamprey. They are destroyed by disintegration. Very good against them. I would never use disintegration with a certain other ability we'll see later on. Those two do not go well together. Some other nice abilities here. Light manipulation we've seen. That lets you shoot lasers at people, and it lets you see in the dark so long as you don't shoot too many lasers. We've seen precognition. Psychometry is technically a digging ability, simply